There's no real reason to bring pyrotechnics into a football stadium, is there?
None.
And there is no reason to throw them on the pitch, and there's really no reason for Richarlison to have thrown it back wherever he threw it.
Yeah.
And the argument that he should be sanctioned, if the rules permit for that, then ultimately the rules are what they are. If the referee didn't engage, I'm very loath to suggest that a retrospective action is required, but the rules, the laws, or whatever you want to call them, are what they are.
Yeah.
But the next discussion is, how do we stop
Right, there you go.
this behaviour?
There you go.
This idea that you can throw things on the pitch, whether it's tennis balls, whether it's pyrotechnics.
How do we stop them getting in? That's the thing. So now we hear this morning that clubs are going to step up spot checks on fans entering grounds.
I mean, how does that really work, Jim? If you're going to let people in through turnstiles, and I know that the stadiums are much more sophisticated than the old twist and dial turnstiles, but there's still a lot of them aren't. You're going to have backlogs of people queuing up to get inside football stadiums and people having to wait 2 or 3 hours to get inside a stadia. Now that may well be a self-policing exercise, because what will happen then is that people will get incredibly frustrated with their impaction of being queuing up because some twit wants to bring a pyrotechnic in the stadium.
Right.
And the next time they do it, there may be some peer-to-peer conversations inside various football stadiums about who's doing what, when, and why, and how. The only way you can if you want it stopped, the only way you can do is stop it at source, which is stop pyrotechnics coming inside the stadium, which means the access to a stadium is going to be delayed, slowed down, while people are introduced into a stadium after being searched.
I know, but the fans can't have a grievance about that because it's a minority of the fans who have brought this about.
But the majority of the fans can have a grievance because they are being adversely affected by the minority, which is when I talked to you about the peer-to-peer relationship, which is basically I'm sitting in a stadium, sitting next to some nitwit that thinks it's important to throw a pyrotechnic anywhere near the stadium or bring it in. And so they'll police themselves. Now, I'm not suggesting mob rule is the idea, but the bottom line is if you want to stop this, if we believe it is becoming endemic, certain aspects of people throwing things on pitches, then it's incumbent upon football stadia to turn around and say, I'm sorry, all ticket holders, as a result of the minority of people that think that they somehow represent the way that football can operate, we are going to search everybody.
I mean, look at this from Danny, whoever Danny is. It wasn't a flare, Jim, it was a smoke canister.
Okay, much better.
This is sensational journalism. Danny, I'm afraid it's not. A smoke canister. I mean,
but why do we need...
why is it there anyway?
Why do
What's it doing inside the ground?
I'm not wanting to be a killjoy. I'm not wanting to be in any shape or form. But why would you... The opportunity for Richarlison to get banned, the conversation starts with somebody throwing a smoke canister.
Yeah.
I don't care what it is. Whatever it is, it doesn't belong being thrown on the football pitch, does it?
What the hell's a smoke canister? What is it?
Well, whatever it is, I don't know. I'm not a smoke canister expert, but whatever it isn't something that needs to be thrown on the pitch.
Correct.
So if it wasn't thrown on the pitch, then Richarlison wouldn't be throwing it back out of the pitch, and we wouldn't be having this discussion about Richarlison.
So is this the only tactic in town to stop them coming in, setting up spot checks? Is this because the Sports Ground Safety Authority are going to recommend the need for greater spectator awareness and pyrotechnic danger?
Surely someone must know who threw the canister. Yeah. Surely in a digital age where football stadiums are wired for sound and we've got technological advances like VAR, we must be able to identify who threw the smoke canister. Ban them first.
Right.
If that's still...
But that's after the event. How do you stop them getting in the stadium?
But most things are going to be always after the event.
But how do you stop them getting in?
Well, that's the next question, isn't it? If you've exhausted the possibility of a deterrent, you then move into preventative, don't you? So the deterrent is the banning of people that do it and the consequences of it in terms of other people seeing that they're going to get banned from the football stadium if they throw anything on a pitch. If they throw anything on the pitch.
Yeah.
Right? Including themselves.
Yeah.
Right? So on that basis, if that deterrent still doesn't exist, enough of a consequence to the other people that want to keep on following that pathway,
right,
then you get into the territory of affecting the majority.
Yeah.
Affect the minority first. Consequence the minority before we start affecting the majority. Right, you out, you out, you out, you and out.
What does that mean? For a season or for lifetime ban?
Whatever the football authorities think is a necessary deterrent.
What do you think? I mean, you've sat in these endless meetings that you've told me all about. You've listened to a whole bunch of hot air.
I slept for most of them.
When you get to the square root of goal on this one, let's say, for talking sake, the individual at Goodison who chucked his thing onto the playing surface. Let's say Goodison's CCTV traces him, finds him, gets him. What's the punishment?
You don't want to go from feast to famine, do you? Or famine to feast. You don't want to go from somebody being overzealous and being silly to somebody that's being consequence beyond what is reasonable. So you could turn around and say, with that in mind, it's a year's ban. If you come back in again and do the same thing, and you're out, finished. You don't ever get back in a football stadium again. A year's ban, and we mean it.
Yeah.
And we mean it, and you're not going to go anywhere else. You're not going to anyone else's stadiums as well. We're going to join up the thinking. We're going to make sure that digital imagery stops you from going to away games as well.
Yeah.
So you're going to get in nowhere.
Clear up something for me. What is the merit of bringing a smoke canister into a stadium?
What is the merit
What's
of
the
throwing
message? What's the message that it sends?
I don't think they're doing it on the basis of merit, are they? I don't think that they're doing. I don't think someone threw a 50p piece or whatever it was.
But why does
Jamie
a fan,
Carragher 20 years ago because there was any merit attached to it?
But why does a fan chuck it and this smoking thing is there and Richarlison picks it up?
Because
why?
Maybe they think it's for their worldview. They think it's engaging and funny, and it gives them some attention, and they're all alluding to a high happy environment. If football says we don't want anything thrown on the pitch, with due respect to the fans, that's what it should mean. So with that in mind, the first port of call, and certainly in the Premier League, there can be no excuses because the resources are available. They nip the majority. They move the majority to one side. They nip the minority in the bud.
Right.
If the minority continues to be this pipeline of village idiots that want to carry on and they don't feel that the consequences are a deterrent for them, then you affect the majority, who will then help control the minority.
Okay.
But you don't start with the majority being affected, because the minority are the people that are affecting people.
Okay.
You deal with them.
But very briefly, do you step up spot checks?
Well, then you're affecting the majority. You're not listening to my argument. If you're able to facilitate a solution that gets people into a football stadium that doesn't impact upon everybody else, because every now and again, 1, 2, 5 in every 1,000, 5 in every 10,000 people wants to be an idiot, right? So we can't then affect the other 9,995 because 5 in every 10,000 wants to be an idiot.
I know that, but at some point the minority's got to affect the majority.
But I've just said that. Take the minority, deal with it in terms of consequencing them. See
after the event.
Everything's after the event, isn't it? In most things,
spot checks aren't after the event.
If somebody shouts something abusive, you can't control the hearts and minds. If you're suggesting that getting people into a stadium of an average attendance in the Premier League is 38,000, right? If you're suggesting you can get 38,000 where they pile in 15 minutes before a game, the bulk of them, right? And you think that's going to work, right? Then you're affecting the majority. If we've exhausted the possibility of affecting the minority and it still hasn't worked, then the majority will have to accept that the minority are affecting them.
Why is football different? You and I go to a concert. Listen, you and I go to a concert tonight at the O2. We'll get checked as we go in. Why is football different?
Because there's a different aspect of how people go to watch football matches.
But you and I get checked at the boxing thoroughly.
Yes, but we get
Fury White.
Really? Did we?
Of course we did.
I'm not sure we did actually.
I had a bag with me. I had to open the bag. We were there for 5 minutes and you were complaining. You've forgotten that already.
I was complaining that you were with me, not complaining that you had the bag. Right? But the bottom line is that the security aspect. I can remember I said to you at the time going into Memphis to watch the Tyson versus Lewis fight and being stood outside for 45 minutes going through metal detectors with everybody. But our game.
I know you don't want that.
No, nobody wants that. But here's the thing. The football fans themselves are going to have to accept then that all their traditions, all the things they've liked to do over the years is going to change, right? You're going to have to get to a stadium an hour before, so you're not going to go to your local boozer, right? And all those businesses are going to be affected by this because people aren't going to be able to go in. You're
complicating it.
I'm not. I'm talking
about. You've got to get to a stadium an hour before because of spot checks.
Okay, how are you going to get in them? How are you going to get the bulk of football fans?
Slightly earlier, not an hour before.
The bulk of football fans turn up to a football stadium 15 minutes before the kickoff. How are you going to get say it's 38,000 people? How are you going to get 25,000 of those people, or 20,000, say 50% of the attendance, through gates, having been spot searched?
Let's
ask
people this morning. You're going retrospective, right? You're saying that's the only way. No, CCTV, go and pick up the offender and nick him.
I'm saying do not make a case that you're trying to make for the majority being affected by the minority until you've exhausted the possibility of affecting the minority.
I'll keep it simple. Stepping up spot checks so that these kind of incidents are not repeated, so that smoke canisters, whatever the hell they are, or pyrotechnics in general, are spotted and the offender doesn't get in. Is that what we're looking at? Is that the only way to deal with this? 03717 223344 81089.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.